Okay, in today's video, I'm going to show you on how are we going to implement a database search in Flutter. Particularly, I'm going to show you what we call as the incremental search. Okay, but before going with our code, I'm going to show you first on how are we going to do it on the back end. Okay, particularly on our MySQL database. Okay, so how are we going to perform an incremental search? Okay, so it is actually the incremental search is we are going to use here a select statement. Okay, so if ever I'm going to have select asterisk from TBL contacts, then we are going to go, then it is going to display all records. Okay, but since what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a search on the name. Okay, so if ever we're going to have search according to the name, so where contact name is equal to Steve Jobs. Okay, go. So we have here a single record returned with the name Steve Jobs. Okay, but how about if ever I'm going to search only for Steve? Then go. Okay, so it returns no record. Why? It is because it actually searches all throughout the contact name field for the word Steve. Okay, it is equal to Steve. Okay, now we have here a Steve a while ago, but it is actually Steve Jobs. Okay, so that doesn't pass our constraint, which should be only equal to Steve. So what are we going to use if ever we are going to search only for Steve or S, or meaning Steve and Steve Jobs still going to be returned? Okay, so we are not going to use the operator equal, but it should be the operator like. Okay, but when I'm going to click on go, so still it doesn't return anything. Why? It is because still it looks for the keyword Steve. Okay, so that is why here we need to have this what we call as the wildcard. Okay, so percent means it stands for anything, meaning it starts with Steve, then any characters. Okay, so if we are going to click on go, so we have here now Steve Jobs. So we have here the Steve, then just anything. Okay, so how about if ever we're going to have only S then anything. So S then wildcard stands for any characters or phrases. Go. So we have Steve Jobs and Sarah Duterte. Why? It is because it starts with S, then just anything. Okay. So how about if ever that I want to search only for those names that has V on the name. Okay. So then go. So it returns nothing. Why? It is because it searches for a name that starts with V. But what I want, as I've said, is if ever the V should be located to any position on the string. It could be the start, the end, or at the center. So in that case, we are going to use wildcard, then the keyword and the wildcard. So I'm going to have here any characters, then V at the middle, then we have anything at the end. Go. So we have Steve Jobs. Okay, so that's what we are going to use for let us say for example D, I think. Oh no, it's not DV, it should be only D. We have only one. Wait. Okay. Okay. Let's say I'm going to change this one. We have Pablo, so I'm going to have Pitok. Oops. Pitok B. Okay. So going back, where contact name like P. Okay. So we have Pitok and Pablo. Okay. So with the P alone, since both records here satisfies the constraint, which means starts with letter P, then anything. So therefore, we have two records has been returned. Okay, but if ever I'm going to have P, then I. Okay, then go. So I have only now Pitok because only Pitok satisfies the constraint, which is P and I. The other one is Pablo. It's P and A. So this is what we call as incremental search. Okay. So as we increase our keyword here, then the number of records being returned also changes. Okay, so that's what we call as the incremental search. Okay, so we are going to use this SQL statement. By the way, in our case, I'm going to use this format here. Okay, so just anything at the beginning and the middle and at the end. Okay, so first I'm going to show you how are we going to work with our backend with our PHP. So first is I'm going to have the search function. Okay, I created here a search. Then we have here our the usual. We have this one, the include for our connection, and we're going to decode our JSON. Then this is the additional one. Since we are going to use an incremental search, so therefore I have concatenated here the wildcard, which is the percent sign, and also at the end, the beginning at the end. So I followed actually the format here. Okay, the wildcard, then the search key and the wildcard. So that is why we have here the wildcard, the search key, and the wildcard. Then just the same. Okay, so I'm going to search now like. So as you can see here, I use here the like keyword. Okay, then the usual, then bind parameter for the search key that has been returned by or passed by our client. So we have here for our JSON. Okay, then execute, return value, fetch all, then echo. Okay, so this is for our PHP. Okay, and by the way, at the same time we have here our for our operation is we have now search. Okay, so what we are going to send here is only actually this one here. Okay, okay, then we have here our code. Okay, so Pitok 1 2 3 4 5, then login. So what I want is I am going to put now my search at the top. Okay, so just so that I could separate it from our combo box here. Okay, so so what I want is a text field and a search button. Okay, so that when I click on the search button, so it is going to change the content of our list view. Okay, save it here. So I want to put it on top of the my contacts. Okay, so since we are going to have a text field and a search button, so therefore we're going to put them into a row. Okay, then children. So first is we're going to have our text field. Okay, then for our text field is we're going to have our controller. And by the way, our controller is we are going to initialize here our controller, text editing controller. I'm just going to call it search controller. Okay, so we have it there. Okay, so for the controller, I'm going to have search controller. Okay, then I'm just going to have one simple decoration, then input decoration. I'm just going to have here the label. So in your case, you're going to improve it by having other decorations. Okay, so for the label text, I'm going to have search name. Okay, the search name, that's for the text field, and then I'm going to have the icon button. Okay, we are going to modify it later on our function here. So for the icon, I'm just going to have search. Okay, I'll try. Restart. Oops. Render box with no size. Okay, I guess it's the text field. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to enclose text field with expanded widget. Okay. So since this error here with no size, we should specify the maximum size of the text field. Okay, I guess it's the text field. It's the culprit here. Okay, so that's why I used here the expanded so that it is going to occupy the whole screen, no, the whole width of the row left by the icon button. Okay, so let's try. Reload. Okay, so we have it there. Okay, so next is we're going to have our button here. So when I click on the button, it is going to modify this one here. Okay, the content of the list view. So to modify the list view is actually okay here. So we are going to modify our get contacts. Okay, so we are going to use same method. So since this is the method that is going to change the value of the contacts list. Okay, so once the value or the content of the contacts list has been changed, so automatically it is also going to change or rebuild our list view. So we are going to modify it here. So our get contacts now has two purposes. Okay, so it is going to search all, and it is also going to search or get contacts by group. Okay, so what are we going to do is we are going to have here a flag, okay, a boolean flag. I'm just going to call it search. Then since we have already used this contact into our filter by group, so I'm just going to have, I'm going to initialize the search as false. Okay, okay, so we're going to have a name parameter, so we're going to have it here. Okay, so take note that I have modified it here. I added a parameter, then I have initialized it as false, so that when we are going to, for those our previous commands with get contacts, by default it should be false. But when our search button is clicked, we should pass a parameter with the value true. Okay, so the very first thing that we're going to do is we are going to modify our JSON. The JSON that we are going to submit here is only in this example is we have the user ID and the group ID, because we are searching, or we are going to filter here the content of the list of our list with based on the group ID. Okay, so in our case, we are going to modify. Okay, we are now going, our JSON data, by the way, is going to base now on the value of the search. If it is false, so we're going to have this one. If ever it is going to be true, so what are we going to do? If ever true, so meaning we are going to search, we are only going to pass our search key. Okay, so here we must have to create here a validation if search. Okay, if search is true, then we're going to have that. Else is we're going to have this one here. Okay, but in our case, we are going to modify, we are going to initialize here string dynamic, I will call it JSON. Okay, we're going to have it final. Okay, so that if ever, take note, if ever search, we're going to pass our search key, else our group ID. So here I'm going to have JSON is equal to the map of search key and the value search controller dot text. Okay, so take note here. Our JSON data will depend now on the search value. If ever the old one, so this is false, so therefore the usual. Okay, but if ever search, so therefore we are going to have the search key. Why search key here? It is because that is what is needed by our API. Okay, so we have here our search key. Okay, so next is, it is possible if ever search, we're going to call search, but if ever get contacts only, or through the group, we're going to use get contact. So there are two possible methods that we are going to use here, and that is going to depend again on the value of the search. Okay, so instead that we are going to have here the constant get contacts, is we are going to have var operation is equal to if search, then we're going to have search. Okay, else we're going to have get contacts. Okay, then here we're going to use operation. Okay, actually we could also use ternary here, but okay, I'm just going to leave it as it is as of now. Okay, this is what we call as ternary operator. Now we're going to have the question mark and the colon here. So search, it is already boolean, so therefore we just have it here as our validator. Then if ever true, if ever search, then we're going to have our operation would be search, else the usual we have the get contacts. So we have here, it is now a variable. Okay, operation. So here, okay, no more changes. Okay, so we are now going to call our Okay, where it is. Okay, so we're going to call it here. So if ever the button is going to be clicked, so what we're going to do is we are going to call our get contacts. Okay, so we are going to change contacts list is equal to await get contacts. Then we have now a label which is search, and we are going to pass the parameter or the value true. Okay, so by the way, I have here, as you can see in our previous example, is we have this one here. Okay, my list is equal to await get contacts. This is for all. Okay, so now is we are going to search. Then since it is a search, so therefore we are now going to pass the parameter here true. Okay, by the way, await, so we're going to have here async, and to update our UI we're going to have the set state. Okay, so I'm just going to leave set state as blank. Okay, because if ever I'm going to put this one here inside set state, so it is possible it could not change the UI. Why? Because it's still going to await, and set state is not going to wait for anything. It is going to look for dependencies that has been changed, and if ever there are, then it is going to update the UI. But it is possible that get contacts hasn't returned yet, and the set state already tried to change the UI, so therefore contacts list has not been changed yet, and the set state has already been executed. Okay, so there will be no changes on the UI. So that is why we are going to have first, we're going to await it first, then we're going to redraw. Okay, so I guess that is all. So save and reload. Okay, so we're going to search. Let us say I'm going to have P, then search. Okay, so as you can see, what are being returned are only those names with P. Okay, not only Pitok and Pablo, but also those names with P on their name. As I'm going to have here A, so PA, then search. So as you can see there, we have only Pablo Pindoco. Okay, but still here classmates. Okay, then colleagues, family. So still this is working. Okay, but if ever we're going to have only again D, so we have a lot of D here. So let's say the, okay, or Donald, we have it there. Okay, so that's how our, by the way, so that we could we would be consistent, I could have here search is equal to false, or anyway this is useless. Why? It is because by default get contacts is already, we have by default the value for the search is we have false. Okay, so as a recap, so we're going to have our search. So what is only new here, the only thing that is new here is we have actually this one. Okay, so we have the search key for the name. That is why I have here contact name is like, then we have this one. Then by using now our wildcard, then everything is the same. Okay, then for our Dart, so we have here our parameter search, which is by default we have the false. So the JSON data that is we are going to pass will depend on the value of the search variable. That is why if ever it is searched, so we have only the search key. Okay, but if ever not search, so we're going to have not only search, but get contact, so we're going to use this one here. Okay, the user ID and the group ID. Oh, I guess I have some problem here. What will happen, by the way, if ever we're going to have this one, it's going to return all. Okay, even though the contacts of other users will also be returned. So therefore, we are going to add here a constraint for the user ID. Okay, that's what I missed actually. Okay, so that is like here we are going to have and contact user ID is equal to user ID. Okay, and I'm going to add here user ID, then we have JSON user ID. Select and okay, and in our Dart code, instead that we're going to have only the search keys, we are going to have also here our user ID and widget that user okay, I think that will do. So reload. Okay, I'm going to have Donald search. Okay, still we have this one here. So with this constraint that we have now, so not all, but only those contacts with the current user ID will be returned. Okay, this should be user ID. Dart. Okay, so that's how are we going to implement a database search with Flutter. Okay, so I hope you could follow those steps. I'm not going to have the recap anymore, so just review or rewind the video if ever you have missed anything. So that's all for today, and I'll see you on the next video.